Men of Reddit, at what age you were able to afford living by yourselves? Hi. Your post has been removed because we suspect you are either trying to conduct a survey or self-promotion. We don't allow that here. And if you're an adult content creator, begone. If you have any questions, please feel free to message the moderators. https://www.reddit.com/message/compose to equals %2fr%2 faskmen. Have a nice day. Afford. About 22. I've never lived by myself. I'm a divorced man in my 50s. Own my own house with a $200k income, and I still have a roommate. As an introvert, if I lived alone, I'd honestly like it too much and never socialize. I'd become even weirder than I currently am. Yeah, this is what happened to me. 1 year living alone really does wonders. I came to know myself and be comfortable with who I am. Felt great, but not introverted enough to continue living alone. Had to get a roommate. Lived with my parents until I was 20. Moved in with my girlfriend and eventually married her. She cheated and we divorced at 36. Moved into a townhouse and got my brother-in-law as a roommate. Lived with him for 2 years and then moved in with my girlfriend, who I eventually married. I'm now 53 and still with my wife. We've had 4 kids in our home from our marriages. So, long story short, never. If you can find a compatible roommate/spouse, go that route. I've always had way more money for toys. The only hard part is getting everyone out of the house so I can whack off. Moved into a townhouse and got my brother-in-law as a roommate. Like the brother of your ex-wife or the brother of a sibling spouse. 18. But I'm 55. Same here. Things were easier for sure. I imagine my 17 years old daughter living with us well into her 20s, which I'm totally fine with. Different world now. The whole idea of 18-year single people leaving their parents' house is really a North America specific phenomenon that was only true for a couple decades. Nobody does that anywhere else. Mostly because they can't afford to. Yes, that's my point. Being able to afford your own place at 18 is a really unusual thing. PFFD, imagine being able to afford living by yourself. If you want it badly enough, you'll eventually attain it. When homeless, do you live alone or have millions of roomies? I was 18 slumming it in a loft with no air or heat. Curb shopping for furniture. 23 in a 2-bed apartment with a kid and a real uncomfortable budget. I was 27 when I got a condo and was making enough to not need governor assistance. Bought a house at 28. 33 now. I moved out the second I turned 18. Student loans and part-time job while at uni tided me over. Had F all. TBH. But I was happy to be free. Living on your own, or shared house, or with a friend etc. On my own. To be fair, this was 26 years ago, so I get times are different. Also in Scotland, uni tuition is covered by the government, so I didn't have that to worry about. Student loans covered the flat, books, basics etc. I got a part-time job for extras. I was skint as F the first 2 years, especially, but I had my own place and I loved it. 22 with first job out of college. Moved out at 23. I'm in my 40s and this still feels like a pipe dream. Roommate still, or dual income? If you mean not with my parents. 19. If you mean without roommates. 26 for sure. But I could possibly have done it at 21. At the time I lived with a partner, so it's not anything I tried. That's why I'm getting a van. Are you gonna park it down by the river? Yes, I will. Have to. Never. I mean, I moved out on my own in my early 20s, but I truly struggled. I didn't manage to successfully survive until my then girlfriend and I moved in together. We've been together 34 years. Married 28. Even though I'm the sole income earner, I'm still not 100% sure I could survive without her to help me manage life. Close bracket. This entire post is me. I'm the sole income earner, but my wife is the reason we save money. I wouldn't be where I'm alone. I'd probably be eating ramens and frozen pizzas and be 600 lbs. 25. But we were in the middle of a recession. 28. And realistically I was able to cause COVID hit and my job became remote, so was able to save a bunch. WFH has really been a huge boon to a lot of people. Yep, would been just getting by without it. Moved out with fiance at 23. She cheated and I was back home with parents at like 27. Started dating a new girl and got married. She moved in with us as we were helping my parents with a lot of stuff around the place as they prepared for retirement. Just moved into a nice 2-bedroom apartment with my wife at 31 a few months ago. I could probably have afforded to stay in my old apartment, but on a single income it was tight. What do you mean by afford? Like being able to pay for all my housing, food, and bills, or having my housing be 30% or less of my income? Being able to pay housing, food, and bills etc without help from family or friends. Unfortunately, if I have basically any emergency expenses, I have to ask my parents for help. About 3 years ago this wasn't the case, but my housing and bills are more expensive now. Inflation is kicking my ass. If nothing goes wrong in my life I'm able to handle my expenses, but just able. I was 20 when I got my own place, but I've been out of my parents' house since I was 16. I'll say 25. I moved out at 17 and have always lived alone, but didn't have to put everything on credit around age 25. Granted, I drive a 35-year-old pickup and work like a dog every day, but I own my land outright, own my vehicle outright, and have less than 2k left in student debt. It's not a glamorous life, but I'm making it. I'm 53 and left home at 17. Things were much more affordable then. I've had a job since I was 13, haha. Moved out when I was 18 for the freedom. Still was at my parents' house every day, raiding their fridge and hanging out. When did I? 18. But F me, that wasn't comfortable. I very much so wish I stayed at home. Probably at 23 is when I finally felt comfortable being completely on my own. I've never lived by myself. Always had roommates. Then dated and moved in. Then married and got a house. Technically I could afford a hole in the wall on my own a few times in my life, at least, before the hole starting to cost $1,500 a month. I live in a 5-bedroom house by myself. It's too big and too lonely some days, but most days I'm happy. 45. Fat, ugly, stupid, and humble. Since I graduated college at 23 with a job lined up in 2019, took out a small loan to get set up, and then moved to the city where my job was located, into a 1-bedroom. Other than my parents driving me up, I was on my own from that point. 19. 20. 18. I still haven't. Only time I was able to was when I worked overseas and was provided an apartment by my employer. 17. I moved out properly when I was 22, a few months after finishing college. I did technically live alone for some of my time at college, but since my folks were helping I don't think that counts.